Things are happening. It's working.
You got a team, here's a word of the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Football Guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
The scouting combine is this week, and we are here for you. It is the Audible, Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, and Lamar Jackson. Does he get dealt this week, Bloom?
No, I don't think so. I think
does the seed for him to be dealt get done this week?
Well, yes. I mean, I think this is a week. We could go off on any number of tangents about what happens at the combine. What is the combine really for? I think less and less it's about what happens on the field. It's always been more about the medicals and the interviews, but also it is NFL networking. And also it's a chance for us to get that rare insight and maybe believe some of the things these decision makers tell us. Bob Harris, the great Bob Harris, likes to tell us if these decision makers tell the truth, most likely it happens at the combine. So we'll be listening. We'll be listening to John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta and so on. But, we had Carson Wentz get released this week, and will someone really give him another chance? I don't know. But my point is that there's a lot of moving pieces. We're going to talk about Derek Carr, right? Marcus Mariota got released too. Not that Marcus Mariota really figures in as a potential starter for somebody, except for maybe a bridge to one of the rookies in this year's draft. However, teams are sorting out their plans. And I think with the case of Lamar Jackson, you really don't know. See, the part that's hard for me to gauge is, are the Ravens willing to just have him play on the exclusive franchise tag this year and then see what happens? Because this is a little bit different, I think, than a difference in terms. Although it's interesting how we're hearing what Lamar Jackson has rejected. If I was Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that that's getting out there. But the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, it seems like this is as much about the relationship as it is about the terms of the contract. And because of that, these things can be subject to change if one side comes around to the other side's way of thinking. And I do think the Ravens are going to exhaust the opportunities to do that before they trade him. And they might need to allow the quarterback market, including the draft quarterback market, right? Take a team like Carolina. Well, who's going to fall to their pick? Are they willing to trade up for somebody? That's going to affect their calculus. The Jets, are they going to get Aaron Rodgers, right? A dark horse team, maybe like the Raiders or the Falcons. There's a lot to sort out here.
A lot to sort out. It's always about the relationship, and it just seems like the relationship with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens has soured. And part of it is them, and they're not putting enough talent around him. We saw that with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts went from 14 months ago as from a guy who was like, I don't know, to a Super Bowl appearance. Because of AJ Brown, because of the talent around him. And then the Ravens are like, I don't know why Lamar can't do it. And they've got, broken pieces around him at wide receiver. The math to me is pretty easy. It seems like Baltimore is reluctant to do the equation.
Yeah, and the math should be easy, right? Look, I don't know why it's so difficult for teams to understand this. If you have, I don't know what the number is, top 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks. It's not just the top 2 or 3. If you have someone better than Kirk Cousins, let's invoke the Kirk Cousins line, okay? If you have someone better than Kirk Cousins, then when you sign them, you are going to reset the market at quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's quarterback 8 or quarterback 2 or quarterback 10. If you are above the Kirk Cousins meridian, then you have to reset the market. That might include guaranteed money. That might include per year. That might include total money over the life of the contract. Really, whatever that player wants. Guess who seems like they understand this? Howie Roseman, right? Mm-hmm. When Jalen Hurts' turn comes, they're not going to be quibbling over how much of the contract's guaranteed. No, you got your guy. You keep your guy until he decides to retire. And the Ravens haven't had that clarity. I think Lamar Jackson knows they don't have that clarity, and he wants to be somewhere where they do have that clarity. So I don't blame him for pushing his hand, because he's the one that actually holds the power here.
Yeah, and it's like when they had Greg Roman, and they're like, well, we built Greg Roman's offense around you. It's like, how about you do something else? when it's not working and you have that guy. And Jackson has developed as a passer much more than people still give him credit for. I can't believe it's 2023 Bloom and we're still talking about, can Lamar Jackson be a passer? Like, you haven't been watching.
No. And congratulations to whatever team gets him. And that's even if it's Baltimore, if they come around and find a way to build a bridge between these two sides. But it's very rare that we see a team have this kind of problem with a franchise quarterback. And I guess we can blame Jimmy Haslam. Did you see he's buying the Milwaukee Bucks? NBA talk alert. Jimmy Haslam and Deshaun Watson. And this is one of those things where the cartel of owners can be upset with each other. Jimmy Haslam and his desperation to get Deshaun Watson reset the bar. And I don't care if it was unnecessary. I don't care if it was foolish. No quarterback that is above that Kirk Cousins line should settle for less than what Deshaun Watson got.
Right. So we shall see what happens. But things happen at the scouting combine. It was last year at Low Miller's, which used to be something. I can't remember the name of it, but a small, tiny little Irish pub in Indy, in that cluster of everything that's down there in Indianapolis. Fine town, whatever. But like I'm a little over Indianapolis, but anyway, so Low Miller's was the place where you saw John Schneider and George Payton get together to do the super secret Russell Wilson trade, double handshake.
Right.
And okay, could things be building that way now with a tag and trade for Lamar Jackson? It went from a suggestion and a thought and kind of a, quiet background piece to now I think a lot of people are just assuming that Jackson will be tagged and traded.
And I think we're going to look at that non-exclusive versus exclusive, because if it's non-exclusive, then the trade, I'm making air quotes when I say that, the trade terms are set, 2 first-round picks. There's no quibbling about the trade terms. And Jackson can negotiate with the team. So that allows another major hurdle, right? If it's an exclusive franchise tag, though, that tells me that the Ravens are still keeping alive the idea of just having Jackson play on the franchise tag this year and then kicking this can down the road another year and seeing what happens. But Cecil, talking about massaging information through the media, like all this Russell Wilson stuff. By the way, I always got to take my hat off to you, Cecil. So many things that are coming out now about Russell Wilson. If they had just listened to the Audible, obviously nobody listens to the Audible except people that are smart and good, our audience, our
diehards.
Because there's all this stuff coming about, Russell Wilson was on the second floor and everyone's on the first floor. There was a separate, wow, shocking. This is stuff that if you listen to the Audible, you knew it was coming out, but why is it coming out now? Right? So with the Lamar Jackson stuff, Cecil, how many items have we heard? And again, Cecil Lammey, was it November that you were saying Jackson to the Panthers, I think? And now you're hearing, the offensive coordinator that was hired was told you may or may not have Lamar Jackson, right? Tom Pelissero is saying the Ravens might have to trade Lamar Jackson. So they're getting everybody ready, particularly the Ravens fans, ready for this reality. That's why we're hearing about this, not because it's a new development.
Yeah, it's not a new development. It's been there for a while, and now it's just coming to fruition. And Seattle, you got to let it go, man. Your ex moved on and wasn't real good. So you're the winner, the big winner. You cry inside like a winner. Okay, Seattle, enough, buddy. But when all this stuff, and it done by great reporters, when The Athletic had that piece, and it was like Mike Sando's like top of the top. He's the top of the mountain, right? But I'm like, all this stuff is, a year old, 6 months old information, whatever. It's like, I guess the national audience now gets in on a little secret. Not so secret that Derek Carr and the Jets is a connection, but Carr's also at the scouting combine going to be talking to other teams as he kind of does his bell of the ball. It's nice to be wanted, right? So he's meeting with 3 teams, including the Saints, the Panthers, and the Jets at the scouting combine. So if Lamar, the deal isn't made or whatever at the combine, is Derek Carr signed this week?
And I think the other name we got to mention here is Aaron Rodgers, who emerged from his 4 days of darkness. Cease. Sometimes I really feel like the media coverage of Aaron Rodgers, it is kind of going too far. hey,
Yeah.
4-day darkness, he's trying to improve himself and get clarity. I'm not going to dunk on him for that. I actually think that that's tending to your mental health and recognizing that your mental health needs to be tended to in the first place, your spiritual health. That's a good thing. I don't want to dunk on him for that. But he makes a lot of sense with the Jets, right? The Nathaniel Hackett gambit. Where Nathaniel Hackett goes, Aaron Rodgers will go. Well, let's try that again. Maybe it'll work for us. So I think that's their first choice for the Jets. And I think Carr is a second choice. I think for the Panthers, you have the draft and Lamar Jackson in play. Now, the Saints are the team that is actually interested in Derek Carr. I don't know if these other teams are. The Panthers, it makes a lot of sense to get in on the market for Carr to just drive up what the Saints are going to have to pay. Period. And that
Right.
that's worthy time spent. I know there's a lot of subterfuge and a lot of stuff like spy games around the draft that I think is silly. And if teams just focus on valuation, they would be a lot better off. But in this case, I do think that driving up the market when you know that one of your rivals, because let's face it, Cease, in the history of the Audible, in the history of the NFL, has there been a division that is worse at the quarterback position than the NFC South right now? I don't think so.
No.
I mean, you could say Kyle Trask might be the best quarterback in the division. He might be. He really
Right.
actually. Taysom Hill
Right.
might be the best quarterback in the division. You
Right.
know, so yeah. Derek Carr, I think we know what we're going to get with him. I think we've seen him now across different offensive coordinators. He's had different pieces around him. I think we know his limitations. You know, the name Kirk Cousins comes up again. So is he going to put the Saints over the top? Is he going to put the Panthers over the top? No. Now the Jets are a little more interesting because we know they have the defense in place. We know they have the culture in place, and this could be interesting. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers is their first choice.
Yeah, and they'll have the ground game in place as well. So, and Robert Saleh is, I mean, this is it, or he's done.
Yeah.
And he knows that, and that's why he wanted out on the Zach Wilson thing, and never wanted in on the Zach Wilson thing because time is a factor.
I thought the idea was to win.
Yeah, I thought we don't have a lifetime. We don't have lifetime contracts. Like, okay, yeah. So if you're the Jets, you have that air of desperation around the league, and that's why you have Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, all this other sorts of
Jimmy
stuff.
Garoppolo
Swirling around, which just seems like a Raiders pick.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
we'll see.
It's in some ways it's quarterback musical chairs. It's not as exciting as it was in the previous years, but it is going to be interesting because all of these things are interrelated. And see, we get the butterfly wings, right? If this move doesn't happen, then this quarterback doesn't end up here, then this team doesn't end up taking this player in the draft. And that's what's exciting about this time of year is these moves, the influence it has on the NFL ripples far beyond the teams that make the moves.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz gets the boot, like you said, and now if you're the Commanders, now with more Eric Bieniemy, it's like,
Right.
okay, let's see what you can do, Sam Howell, I guess, after one game. After one game, they have to add somebody. Like, as much as Howell could be, they can't just go in with one game from him to say, like, okay, let's see what we got.
Right. Taylor Heineke could be back. This is not a team that has a lot of options, I think, unlike some of the other teams, to make a big splash in the draft or make a big splash in free agency. So we don't mention them in connection with some of these other quarterback names. So it's going to be a small move. But yeah, I think you're right, Cease. I think the idea is this year is for Eric Bieniemy to really put his fingerprints on the offense. We already have Ron Rivera, Brian Robinson. They're keeping Daron Payne. That's a good idea. And this team invested so much in that front four, and that's going to be really the group that puts a stamp on their future. And then you put that together with a running game and you see what you have in Sam Howell, but you understand you're not going to catch Philadelphia this year. There's no quarterback move that's going to allow them to catch, except for maybe Lamar Jackson. But the other thing, Cease, that it absolutely does complicate football operations is what's going to happen with Dan Snyder. You know, we hear that Dan Snyder is going to be able to fend off this attempt to wrest the franchise from his grip. But then we also hear, oh, there's some problem loan. Again, why is this coming out? Why is this coming out now?
Yes.
So it's still complicated for Washington.
I think that's one of the most important things we can do in dissecting information is why now?
Yeah.
You know, the Russell Wilson stuff, which I had told everybody, like, wait till after the year and then you're going to get a bunch of stuff. Like, okay, it's the stuff we've been talking about. why now with this, Jeff Bezos and Commanders? And I'm like, okay, why now? Also, I think people need to discern between agent fed information and actual information, because again, agents have asked you and me to say nice stuff about their clients just because they're their clients. And
well,
I'm
it's their job, right?
It is.
They're
And
lawyers.
God bless them, right?
They're attorneys. As an attorney, as a dormant attorney, like a dormant volcano, you're supposed to be distorting the truth to your benefit and your client's benefit. That's your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So everyone recognize and realize the job, and the job at the combine is to create that market for your quarterback, create that situation where, you're going to put your client in the best position possible. I need to take a moment out, Bloom, if you'll allow me. Here on the last day of February. It's February 28th, man.
Yeah.
And I like Todd McShay. Like, I can't say like I'm buddies with Todd or anything, but I'm friendly with Todd. I like him, but for the love of God, it's 2023. Do we really need McShay saying like, if I'm a GM, I'm scared to death to take Bryce Young because he's 5'10"? Like, okay, I'm 5'10" and Russell Wilson's shorter than me.
Yeah.
And I know Russell Wilson sucks, right? Seattle, your ex sucks. Your ex totally sucks, Seattle. You're totally awesome, Seattle. Like, enough, buddy. But I'm like, when that hit Twitter yesterday, and I was just like, oh my God, seriously? We're still here with the skill. I talked to Matt Waldman yesterday. He gave me a call when he was walking his dog. So I was like, all right, nice, Matt. And we were just kind of laughing, like, oh my God, the skill that Bryce Young has as a passer.
Right.
The skill, the intellect, for me, it's his processor.
Yes.
Like, that processor is so damn fast. Like, he could kill you with his legs if he wanted to, but he'll just pick you apart from the pocket, on the run. Very fast processor. It's almost like he manipulates defenses like marionette strings. Very high level quarterback play. I don't give a damn if he's 5'10". It's a smaller frame, injury concerns because of the big hits. Okay, those are decent. But this whole like Bryce Young is really short, so I should be scared. Like, Todd, be better, man. Be better.
Well, and it sees this very well could fit under the heading that we were just discussing, carrying water for people, right?
Right.
Because if I'm the Texans, I don't want to have to pay to move up from 2 to 1. That's going to be a significant cost. Okay. The Bears are trading number 1. Good for them. The Ryan Poles has the right idea. If you're not taking a quarterback, you're trading that pick, maybe even to number 4, but you're trading it to number 2 or number 4. And speaking about the subterfuge, the spy games, right? Chicago wants Houston to think they're going to trade the pick to Indy, and Indy's going to take their quarterback, right? Houston probably wants out there that, assuming they want Bryce Young. Can we just say this? Any rational team would have, I think. Now, I suppose there are systems that really accentuate the athleticism that Anthony Richardson brings to the field. But otherwise, Bryce Young, because you mentioned it, Cecil, it's the processor. Because what is going on now, the Sean McVay, the Kyle Shanahan offenses taking the league by storm. It's understanding what made Jalen Hurts go from a second-round quarterback to a franchise quarterback. His processor sped up. And the processor is what allows you to take what the offensive coordinator has conceived of and bring it to life on the field, right? It's what harvests all the value of these play designs, of the quality of your teammates, of a good pocket, good offensive line that gives you time to process. And Bryce Young is extremely advanced. If you're an offensive coordinator, you're just giddy at the thought of what he can unlock. As far as, of course, if you're an offensive coordinator, you're going to think you're a genius. So you're going to think he's going to make you look like even more of a genius. But I do think that Houston probably wants him. They don't want to trade up to number 1. The Colts are the interesting one because Shane Steichen and his experience with Jalen Hurts might make him more inclined to say, you know what, we don't think anybody's going to trade up for Anthony Richardson. It's just too much of a boom bust pick if you're Houston. I think that the Cardinals sitting at number 3 have to be set. They don't have the luxury the Bears have of saying, well, we can trade down to 4 and get Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. Those are your 2 marquee edge players or defensive line players. So I think Arizona is not going to trade out of number 3. I just think it's too important for them to get that. They got a defensive head coach. So I think the Colts are a wild card here. But as far as the size concerned, that's trash. But Cease, it's not even the lying season yet. And we're going to hear a lot of trash about a lot of very good players who are just trying to build a career.
Yeah, and that leads me into the final topic on today's show. We appreciate everyone for joining us here on the Audible. What is the purpose of the combine? Like we see people skipping it. Now, from a media standpoint, I think it's a little bit different from a player standpoint. The players are the most important. Us muggle types, like, it doesn't matter. But this is the last time you will get good information.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, Bob Harris saying, like, this is the last time they're going to tell the truth. If they do tell you the truth, it will be at the combine, probably because they get peppered with a bunch of questions. And I honestly credit the people outside of the market that ask either those tough or those unusual questions, because you get relationships with coaches when you're in a local media market. So you might be a little more friendly to them, or a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this as well. You go up there and you ask, who did I ask? Oh man, years and years ago, Tom Coughlin was up there, and I think I asked him about Duran. Who was that running back? The little guy, Duran, whatever. But it was basically like, I know who your fifth string running back is, and it was like his first question. And he was just like, huh? Like, yeah, he's fine. Was it DeLon Carter? I don't think it was DeLon Carter. But
From
anyway,
Syracuse, yeah.
Yeah, it was some
There's
giant
a Syracuse connection there between Coughlin and
yeah. So like I asked him to flex my, like, I know your depth chart muscles. And so locally people will flex their muscles to be like, I know I've got a relationship with who, and insert coach's name. I think it's the people outside of market that will actually kind of startle a coach a little bit or catch him off guard a little bit. You definitely don't have the team PR because it's the access game. When I've requested interviews with certain people and those requests have been denied, I go, oh, it's because I didn't play the access game. Right. And I refuse to play the access game. Like, well, unless I get paid like Mike Kliss. Mike Kliss makes so much money. I'm like, oh yeah, I do it. I love Kliss.
I'll sell out.
Exactly.
Where do I sign?
What's my price tag? Like, yeah, but like, no. So it's the access game. I think at the combine, you get that last piece of information. But when I see players backing out due to various injuries, go to their pro days or whatever, we always have the pro day. And even that, it's like, well, what's the point of that? But the combine has gone from like under the radar, like weird, NFL Network's going to film, people are going to view it, to like all of a sudden this sensation. Now you just totally got to be there. And I think it's completely different now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When I first started going to the combine. And I think honestly, it's pretty worthless. If Bijan Robinson, God bless Bijan Robinson, but if he goes out there and gets hurt doing a combine drill, like that's just stupid. There's no way he should be out there as the number one back in this class. Like there's no way he should be out there. But he is, and I want guys to compete, but this isn't football. I want guys to compete at the Senior Bowl. I don't need guys to compete in shorts. So I don't know, Bloom. Maybe it's just me being an old man, get off my lawn. But the reasoning of the combine, the purpose of the combine has changed.
It has. It hasn't. Right. I still think the core backbone of the combine is medicals, interviews, and maybe an overarching idea of job interview gotcha kind of stuff. How are you going to react to these questions? How are you going to react to having to get up early and have them poke and prod and then put on something for your drills? And how have you been training for this? Are you taking it seriously? What kind of vibes are you giving off? I think that's all part of it. It's all part of the months-long job interview that the draft process is involved. And of course, NFL coaches, decision makers, they love to hang out and go to steakhouses and, probably their families, some of them are happy that they have excuses to get out of the house and go somewhere when it's not football season. But see, I think you're right. You mentioned Bijan Robinson. I think you're right that from a player standpoint or agent, it's a player-by-player, case-by-case basis, right? Like Anthony Richardson's going to do everything because he's going to wow everybody. Bryce Young, maybe what is there to gain, really? What is there to lose? Small school players want to prove, just like we'll talk about Senior Bowl Shrine Game later this week, small school players want to prove they can fit in, right? Maybe players have specific questions. Their agent has been advised, hey, teams are worried about this cornerback's ability to flip his hips and things like that. And they'll want to show that off. But like you said, Cease, there's the pro day, there's private workouts with teams. The combine just gives us this controlled, uncontrolled environment where you can see how players react. You can see how they handle it. You can see how, when put under the microscope, what do you see, what flaws emerge, or what things get even tighter focused. So it has that purpose, but it's mostly a job interview.
It's a job interview, and we are here for it. We'll keep you up to date if and when anything big happens at the scouting combine. Coming up this week, we have our, let's see if I get this right, snorkel, scuba, submarine. I got it in order. Snorkel, scuba, submarine show. That's coming up. Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl recap. Remember that thing that happened 2 months ago? It's only been a month. But yes, go over some of my thoughts from those two games, as there was quite a bit of talent, and there might have been more talent in Las Vegas. Quarterback wise, there certainly was. And they got some things changing on that all-star circuit. We will keep you up to date on that. So we'll see you tomorrow morning around 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey, saying appreciate you all. Until next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, please stay frosty.